I just spent 3 months researching investment taxes in every single European country. In this video, I'm going to share a 5-step tax optimization process that will help you reduce and simplify your investing taxes no matter where you live in Europe. These steps can potentially save you thousands of euros and hours of tax bureaucracy and help you avoid problems with the authorities. I will also share the #1 tool that I use when researching investment taxes in Europe. So make sure to watch this video before you start investing. Listen, taxes are the biggest problem for investors who live in Europe. Each country in Europe has its own tax laws. The best investments in Spain or Italy could give you a big tax bill in the UK or Switzerland. And when you move to another country, things get even harder, but you're not gonna give up, are you? So here's my 5-step process for making taxes easy. Okay, step #1, figure out your tax residence. If you want to optimize your investments for taxes, the first question is, which country's taxes? For example, meet Anton, a German software developer. He was born and raised in Munich, and he still lives and works there, and he has no ties to any other country. In Anton's case, it's easy. His tax residence is almost certainly Germany. Now meet Anton's brother, Otto. His house is also in Germany, but he commutes to work in Switzerland every day. He also rents an apartment in Zurich where he stays sometimes. Where's his tax residence? Not so obvious, right? In Europe, a lot of us move around. Maybe you live in Paris, but your children live and go to school in Portugal. Maybe you're from Turkey, living in the UK. Maybe you're an American expat living in Barcelona. The other day, this guy emailed me and said, "Hey Tom, I'm Estonian, but I live in London. What do you think? Would it be better to pay tax in Estonia or the UK?" Listen, it's not up to you. You can't just choose whatever's more convenient. The first thing you have to check is the physical presence test. In most European countries, if you spend more than 183 days there in any given year, you will likely be considered a tax resident in that country. So that's simple, right? Spend more than half a year in Spain or France or Portugal, and you're probably a tax resident there. But there are exceptions and complications. For one, in some countries, the physical presence test is more complicated. I'm looking at you, Cyprus. For another, if you have close ties to another country, that country may want to consider you a tax resident even if you don't spend much time there. For example, my friend Ernest works most of the year in Riga, Latvia, but his ex-wife and kids live in Frankfurt, Germany, and he tells me he's actually considered a German tax resident. And finally, if you're an American citizen or green card holder living in Europe, I'm sorry for you. Although you might be a tax resident in Europe, you also need to file US taxes, and investing will be a real pain in the butt for you. So that's step #1. Make sure you know your tax residence before you even think about investing. I'll share some resources for that later in this video. Step #2. Learn which investment taxes apply in your country. There are at least 5 kinds of standard investment taxes you should be familiar with. If you want to make money investing, this is stuff you really need to know. So take a deep breath, hold on tight, because shit's about to get real. Okay, so first, capital gains tax. This is basically a tax on buying low and selling high, okay? If you manage to buy something cheap and sell it more expensively, you pay capital gains tax on the profit. For example, let's say you bought Tesla stock for 10,000 euros and later sold it for 15,000. Well, Elon just made you 5,000 euros richer, but you've got to pay capital gains tax on that. With some exceptions such as Switzerland, Belgium, Cyprus, and the Netherlands, most European countries will tax your capital gains from investments. Second, distributions tax. Let's say you invested in Coca-Cola stock. You walk around town with a smile on your face because every time you see somebody drinking a Coke, you feel like a boss. Well, whenever Coca-Cola pays you a lovely dividend, you will get taxed on that. In fact, depending on your country, you might get taxed both in America and locally here in Europe. Third, transaction tax. You know that song, right? How did it go? Every breath you take, every move you make, I'll be taxing you. Well, that's transaction taxes. They apply to each purchase and sale of financial instruments. You will find transaction taxes in many European countries such as Belgium and the UK. Fourth, wealth tax. Tax the rich. It's a great idea, isn't it? But it's annoying when it happens to you. Wealth taxes are charged on your assets regardless of whether you have actually earned a profit in a given year. These taxes apply in a limited number of countries such as Spain and the Netherlands. And finally, fifth, exit taxes. You know how they say, don't let the door hit you on the way out? Well, a lot of governments want that door to hit you as you leave the country and to shake some cash from your pockets. Let's say you bought a bunch of Apple shares while living in country X and you didn't sell them. Currently, you have a 10,000 euro paper profit on these shares. Then you leave country X to move to country Y. When you stop being tax resident in country X, you may need to pay tax on your 10,000 euros of theoretical profit. Exit taxes are found in quite a few European countries, including Spain, France, Germany, Poland, and others. Okay, so these are the 5 big taxes investors should be aware of. And that's not even all. Other taxes also sometimes apply in particular countries. Listen, don't freak out. Just keep breathing, okay? Later, I'm going to share some ideas for how you can research investing taxes quickly and painlessly. All right, let's move on to step number 3. Explore tax-advantaged investments. How do you pay less taxes? Without going to jail, of course. Well, you're in luck. Most European countries offer investors some tax-advantaged investments or tax exemptions. And in the best cases, using tax-advantaged investments can allow you to invest essentially tax-free. And you don't have to scheme or cheat or hire an expensive law firm from Panama. It's all perfectly legal. Here are 4 common types of tax-advantaged investments that you can look for. First, tax-advantaged brokerage accounts. This type of account lets you invest while paying less tax or no tax at all. One example is the UK's Individual Savings Account, or ISA. Second, tax-advantaged investments. In some countries, particular investments can have lower tax rates or may be altogether tax-free. Third, tax-advantaged pension funds. In many countries, you can get tax rebates or generous tax exemptions when investing in pension funds. The downsides are that pension funds typically charge significant fees. They're usually not self-directed, you don't control the investments, and you may not be able to withdraw the money before retirement. And fourth, tax exemptions. In some countries, the first few hundred or the first few thousand euros of capital gains or distributions each year may be tax-free. Naturally, in some countries there are other tax optimization opportunities, but these 4 are the big ones. So it's absolutely vital to figure out which of these may be available in your country. So just ask your local bank or brokerage and you're gonna hear all about it. If it doesn't work, a bit later I'm gonna share some other resources you can also use to research these opportunities. Do this before you start investing, okay? I've seen a lot of people skip this step and lose literally thousands of euros because of it, so don't make that mistake. So that's step number 3. Explore tax-advantaged investments. All right, and now it's time for step number 4. It's a big one. It's really crucial. But first, a quick note. If you're finding this helpful, make sure to hit like, subscribe, and the notification bell, because my channel is all about helping people across Europe invest and grow their wealth. So don't miss my next videos. Okay, but now step number 4. Choose a tax-optimized brokerage. First of all, many of the tax-advantaged investments in your country may only be available through a local brokerage. And second, in some countries, choosing the right local brokerage makes your tax filing and reporting much easier. The worst offenders here are Austria, Germany, and Denmark, because if you don't have a local brokerage there, tax reporting becomes kind of a nightmare. I'm really disappointed in you, tax guys. You can do better. So that's step number 4. Choose a tax-optimized brokerage. And now let's pull it all together with step 5. Optimize your portfolio to pay less tax later in the future. To optimize your portfolio for taxes, most people focus on 2 priorities. 1, pay less tax, and 2, pay tax later in the future. The reason for the first priority should be obvious, right? The second priority is a little more subtle. Let's say you've got to pay the government 1,000 euros in tax sooner or later. Which do you prefer? A, pay the government now, or B, invest the 1,000 euros to make you some profit for 10 years and then pay the government? It's a no-brainer, right? Doesn't it make sense to get 10 years of use, 10 years of profit out of this money, to squeeze some juice out of it before you hand it over to the government? So that's the logic behind tax deferral. As long as you expect your tax rate to be similar or lower in the future than it is today, most of the time it's a smart idea to pay tax later. So you want to look at the investment taxes in your country, for example, capital gains and dividend taxes, and the investments you're considering, for example, stocks, bonds, and ETFs, and figure out which combination of investments will let you pay less tax later in the future. For example, in many European countries, so-called accumulating index funds and and ETFs let you invest without paying any taxes for years. This achieves an excellent tax deferral effect. But of course, this is where things get tricky. In other countries such as Switzerland or Austria, this approach doesn't work because these accumulating ETFs get taxed on a yearly basis. The truth is that there is no one right solution for everybody in Europe. There is no single tax-optimized portfolio that works great everywhere from London to Berlin to Budapest. So if you want to do step 5 and optimize your portfolio to pay less tax later in the future, you'll have to research your local laws and regulations. Now, if you're a busy professional, like most of the people I work with in my training programs, you might be feeling a bit overwhelmed right now. I can offer you a couple of solutions. One, at the beginning of the video, I said I'd share the #1 resource that I use for researching European investment taxes. Here it is. It's the worldwide tax summaries database compiled by PricewaterhouseCoopers, the big international auditor company. The link is taxsummaries.pwc.com. I'll put it in the video description as well. If you want to quickly discover the key facts about taxes in the country where you live, the PwC tax summaries are great. That said, this database will make a ton of sense if you're an accountant or tax professional. For beginners, it's going to be tough. Also, it doesn't really go into details about popular investments such as the ETFs and index funds. If that's interesting for you, I've got another solution for you. Self-promotion time. I specialize in helping people all across Europe go from zero to invested in their own passive portfolios in just a few weeks. That's exactly why I just spent 3 months investigating investment taxes in all European countries. I cover all that for our program members. I work with Europeans, with expats who move to Europe from somewhere else, and with nomads who move around between countries a lot. So if you live in Europe and want to invest, come watch the first big module of my training program. It's available as a cool free webinar at go.indexmasterclass.com. The link is also in the description of this video. People usually really enjoy the webinar, so I'd love to see you there. But for now, that's it. Don't let the fear of taxes stop you from investing. Embrace the suck. Master taxes and put yourself in a position to grow your wealth without stress or fear. To discover more cool insights about investing from Europe, hit like, subscribe, and the notification bell, and I'll see you in my next video.